Just wait.
Well, God bless you. How you doing out there?
Hi, everyone.
As you can see, we're extremely excited this evening for In the Blender with Madeline and Brandon Hyman, and we're just bubbling over for just the information that we're going to be sharing with you guys on this evening. And I'll tell you, it's just been an awesome day. All day long has been productive, work-wise, family-wise, business-wise, and so we're just excited. We just been bubbling over, especially just from the last broadcast. Many of you have tuned in and saw the broadcast that we shared on last week, last Tuesday, which was our anniversary, our 19th wedding anniversary. And I tell you, it was awesome. We had two of the children over as well as two of the grandchildren. And I tell you, we just had a great time. We shared some information, we shared some laughs, and I tell you, just so impactful. And so we thank you for tuning in again to In the Blender with Madeline and Brandon Hyman. And I tell you, it's just been a blessing. Also, we want to give you guys our email address, which is weareablendedfamily@gmail.com. We are blended family@gmail.com. So you can send us your questions. A lot of people have been sending us questions as it relates to our family, our dynamics, discipline, things of that nature. And I tell you, it's just been awesome. And so we want to give you an opportunity. If you have any questions, you hear anything that we share, and you want some clarity, you want that information, please email us those questions to weareablendedfamily@gmail.com. So, sweetheart, give us a recap on last week's broadcast.
So last week, some of the things that we discussed. Point number one, most couples going into a blended family don't seek out counsel as it relates to a blended family. They don't seek counseling before they come together as a blended family, which we realize that's very important to do. You should seek counseling when you're bringing basically two families together to become one.
Exactly.
Having a closeness or civil relationship with the biological parent of the children. Now that's something that you've proven to have done very well, because you and my ex have a very good relationship.
Yes.
So you can testify to that one. Be open and accepting to a new relationship of the blended family, spouse, as well as child or children. And also find creative ways to communicate your thoughts, whether it's written or recorded. One of our daughters said on last week that one of the things that she found that was helpful, and a tip that she gave to some of the other children that could use, is if you can't talk it out, go ahead and write it out. That way, when that parent read that information, it can be uninterrupted, because it's there. You're reading it on paper. You don't have to worry about being interrupted as they're reading that. So that was some of the things that we discussed on last week.
And what I like about that last one is the fact that when you have a situation and you write it out, then you take away the emotion that comes along with it, and it's just pure dialogue. It's pure dialect. And so that's a great tool to use when you're having to resolve situations, or you want to express some things and you don't want your emotions to be all wrapped up into it, but you want to make sure that your point is clear, and that you're clearly letting that individual know, that parent, or as well as that child, let them know what you're feeling, and what you want to accomplish by that expression. And so please take that point in. And so also too, we want to talk about what does it mean to be a blended family. And this is important because a lot of people really don't have a clarity as to what a blended family is and the dynamics of a blended family. And so this is a definition that we kind of comprised as we looked around and researched some things. A blended family is defined as a family made of two parents and their children from a previous marriage or relationship. And so if you just really want to know just point blank what a blended family is, a blended family is defined as any family made of two parents and their children from a previous marriage or relationship.
Child or children.
Child or children, yes. Give us some statistics, sweetheart.
Okay. 1,300 new blended families are formed every day. 1,300 new blended families are formed every day.
That's huge, because when you talk about that dynamic, that's a lot of people that's coming into this relationship and not having true understanding, not having clarity or know-how, haven't really sought out instruction and guidance and wisdom. And so this is big. Don't just think that what we're talking about is a small part of the population. This is huge. Get that one more time.
1,300 new blended families are formed every day. And that's, I think, too, because most people, when you get married, you're not expecting to go through divorce and have to enter into a blended family. When you get married, you're seeking it to be forever, until death do you part. Sometimes, unfortunately, it does not end up that way. And, people do end up remarrying and bringing their family together with another family and making one family.
And not only that, sweetheart, you're talking about also, too, there's a lot of people nowadays that when they're young, they don't think about marriage, but they still want to start a quote-unquote family.
True.
So they have children, a lot of successful women, they don't want to get married right now, but they want a child. And so at a young age, or once they get established, they have a child. But then as they get older and they realize, I want to make this thing the best possible family that I can get, then they decide to get married. So that also creates a blended family.
Yes.
And so there's a whole lot of different dynamics to why blended families are created. And so we just want to make that clear, because we're not just saying that blended families come from divorced families that are remarrying, but you also have a lot of people that when they're young, they're teenagers, they have children out of wedlock.
Exactly.
And so all these are dynamics to form blended families later on in life. So what's the next statistic?
The average marriage in America lasts only 7 years.
And that right there is mind-blowing. 7 years. They're just giving you 7 years in that marriage to work. And so these are important, because this is another reason why you have blended families, because most people don't believe that they're failures. And so if that first marriage didn't work, then they're going to give it another try. And so 7 years, you haven't really even scratched the surface on a relationship.
Yeah.
And so now, hey, I want to give this thing another try and hopefully learn, what I needed to learn from that previous marriage, and now I can be successful in this one.
Think about it. In some marriages, it takes 7 years sometimes to get it together, to learn that person and to be able to adjust to the changes and compromises and everything, that comes along with in those marriages. So
yeah, because what they tell me is it took me 7 years to get nice or to be nice. And so 7 years is a long time.
Well, it can be.
It can be a long time, but it was a long time for me, because I was walking in a personality that I didn't need to walk in, and I operated and functioned in a way I didn't need to function in. And so not only was it a long time for me, but it was consequently a long time for my family, because there were some things that I needed to learn and I needed to mature from in order for this to be a success. And so, again, what's that? Give me that statistic one more time.
The average marriage in America lasts only 7 years.
What's the next one?
1 out of every 2 marriages end in divorce.
Say it again?
1 out of every 2 marriages end in divorce.
And see, one of the things I love about our ministry is we're always talking about we declaring war on divorce. And so this is just another tool to declare war on divorce. Because just because you're a blended family does not mean that you can't be successful. Mm-hmm. Here we are, we're testaments that you can be a successful blended family. Again, we said it plenty of times. People didn't give us 6 months. Some didn't even give us 60 days. I remember I remember a relative of mine made a comment one time, and it was like, wow, really? That's how you think? And so, but here we are 19, 20 years later, and stronger than ever before. And so we're here to let you know that you can make it. Regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what you've gone through to get to this point, as a blended family, you can make it. Not only can you make it, but you can be successful, extremely successful. And I tell you that we have been blessed beyond our imagination as relates to our marriage and our union with our children, our grandchildren. And so it's just been an awesome experience. What's the next one?
The last one that we have down for tonight is 75% of blended families complain of not having resources as a blended family, according to a recent Step Family survey of 2,000 web questionnaires.
And listen, so this is not us just speaking.
Right.
This was a web questionnaire that went out to 2,000 families and went out to over 2,000 families, but the response was 2,000 families responded as step families or blended families. And unanimously, all of them said, that 75% of them said that, or they complained of not having resources as it related to a blended family. And this is important, and that's what catapulted us and pushed us to do what we're doing right now, is because we were one of those families that didn't have resources, that didn't have people that we can go to and glean on and learn from. Now, we had people in our lives that had successful marriages, don't get me wrong, but as it relates to blended families, we didn't have many. Yeah. We didn't have many. And only one I could think of, there were a few that we had, but again, I probably can count them all on one hand. And so, and plus we weren't really close with them, so we really couldn't get what we needed to be the success that we wanted to be starting off. And so, get out that statistic one more time.
75% of blended families complain of not having resources as a blended family, according to a recent Step Family, I like blended family survey of 2,000 web questionnaires. And we're not saying that there's not any resources available for blended families, because there is some out there. But I go back to when we got married, there was very little that we could come across or that we found that was able to assist us.
Exactly. And so tonight we just wanted to start off giving you guys a recap of last week's broadcast.
And if you missed it, go back and look at it, because it was awesome. It was really good. Awesome information that was shared. And again, it's only 30 minutes, but you want to make sure that you go back to all of if this is your first broadcast that you watch with us, please go back and look at the ones that we shared. We on every Tuesday from 7:30 to 8 o'clock. And it's 30 minutes of just power pack information. And again, we're talking about us. Right. So we're not talking about stuff we don't know. We're not talking about principles that we haven't applied. We're not talking about things that we have no understanding of. We're talking about things that we put into place that we know work. And we've been successful at it. And if we've been successful at it, with all the odds that we face against us, you can be successful as well. Yes. And so tonight we're going to talk about things you should know going into a blended family. Let me say that again. Things you should know going into a blended family. The first one is you most likely will never be comfortable or fine with them, meaning the other spouse or the other parent, making even the smallest negative comment about your kids. Yeah. Now, this is powerful, because a lot of you probably dealing with that right now. Let me read that again. You will most likely never be comfortable or fine with them making even the smallest negative comment about your kids. Okay, what do you mean? A lot of people, I don't care if you my husband or my wife, don't talk about my kids. Yeah. I don't care if they lazy. I don't care if they don't want to clean up. I don't care what it is they don't want to do. Sometimes you just don't want nobody.
I don't want you talking about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if they do the dumbest thing or whatever. I still don't want you talking about it. And so I've learned that, and we've learned that it doesn't matter how long you've been married. Sometimes that could be a touchy situation.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we even laugh amongst each other when we make certain comments, and then we look at each other's face like really? Is that your response to that? Is that how you're going to take that? And so, again, we know. Again, we're not talking about things we don't know. This is stuff we know. Most likely, you will never be comfortable or fine with them making even the smallest negative comment about your kids. We have friends.
Saying you won't ever, because we're saying most likely.
Most likely.
Some, can, it don't matter, but
most likely,
most likely,
you probably won't.
Yeah, don't talk about my children. Don't talk about my kids.
Exactly. There's so many times we're talking to people, and it's like every time I turn around, he got something to say about my kids, or every time I turn around, she got something to say about my kids. Well, guess what? They are their kids as well.
Yes.
And so they have every right to say certain things, but it doesn't excuse you from being either comfortable or uncomfortable with the statement.
Right.
And so I'm finding out, too, that a lot of it is about maturity. Sometimes we just got to mature as it relates to our kids. You know what I'm saying? You know your kids. A parent know their children.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so you know your kids. You know what they up to. You know what they dealing with. You know all these things. And so you just have to go ahead and just say, okay, I know what I'm dealing with. I know my babies. Yeah, you right. You know what I'm saying? And then move on. Because this can also, too, bring a lot of divide and division in the relationship as well. And so the first one is you most likely will never be comfortable or fine with them making even the smallest negative comment about your kids. The second one is it might be difficult not to look at your new life and compare it with your old life. Let me say that again. It might be difficult not to look at your new life and compare it with your old life. What do you mean? A lot of times when you come into a blended family, especially when you don't have instruction or you don't have wisdom, you don't have understanding, you're not real good at communicating certain things, you can start looking at your single life or your pre-blended family life as better than your blended family life. You can look at, you know what I'm saying, well, when my kids did something that wasn't right, I'm the only one that dealt with it. And so, you can look at now, especially if you haven't really worked out that discipline area with your new spouse, that can be a touchy situation, because now it's like I was better off dealing with things myself, or even as it relates to finances. Right. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people look at finances and, we heard the saying before, you can do bad all by yourself, because I won't say that I can, because I don't do bad and I don't want to do bad and I'm not going to do bad. And so some people say they can do bad all by themselves, but not understanding the power of agreement. Right. And so if you guys just get on one accord and you touching and agreeing and you believe in God for whatever, then you have the ability to do whatever it is you put your mind to do. It's so powerful, the power of agreement and what you can accomplish even through touching and agreeing with your spouse. And so understand that it might be difficult not to look at your new life and compare it with your old life, but when you understand that what you can accomplish more together, it erases looking at your old life. You got anything to say about that one? Okay, the next one is, if you value what you have with your new family dynamics, you'll learn to forgive more easily than you used to forgive. Let me say that again. If you value what you have with your new family dynamics, you'll learn to forgive more easier than you used to forgive. And I think that kind of applies a little more to women than men. Because I think women forgive a little less willingly than men. Or women hold a grudge longer than the man. Would you agree with that one?
Well, I used to.
That's what I'm saying.
But that doesn't mean that Overall, yeah, because there may be some women that, forgive easier than their spouse. So I don't think you can really say that, one or the other forgive more quicker than the other.
Exactly.
Now, in ours, yeah, you were more forgiving quicker than I was.
Yes. Yes. And yes. And I'm going to tell you something. This is something that I learned a long time ago. I heard a young man say this statement, and I'm going to share it with you guys. And it transformed my life as it relates to my wife. He said, I would rather be in love than to be right. And many times we choose to be right than to be in love. And what do you mean by that? Most people, they so stuck on being right, like they gotta be right all the time, or they gotta prove their point, that you'll ruin a relationship. You'll ruin this marriage relationship and this family dynamic because you just stuck on being right instead of being in love. I would rather just take the heat and us just loving up on each other and hugging up on each other and all that other good stuff that come along with once you hugging up and rubbing up on each other, than me trying to prove I'm right. Because me proving I'm right, she don't want to play footsies. Me proving I'm right, she don't want to be touched. So it doesn't benefit me to be right if I lose the intimacy and the affection that I got into this relationship to always have. And so again, if you value what you have with your new family dynamics, you will learn to forgive more easier than you used to forgive. And not only just with your spouse, but also with your children.
Right.
Because it doesn't benefit to even hold grudges with parent and child relationship as well. Because there's some things that you're going to gain from that relationship and they're going to gain from that relationship, that if you guys don't learn to forgive for mistakes that's made, there may be decisions that's made that aren't beneficial at that particular time or aren't wise. Because Paul said all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. So just because you can do something, that don't mean it's always beneficial. And so you got to know how to forgive, because there are going to be some choices made and some decisions made and some things done that can rub you the wrong way and can rub the family the wrong way. But if you don't know how to value what you have and appreciate what you have and learn how to forgive quickly, you'll miss valuable time, man. There are married people or in family dynamics that they don't speak to each other for years.
But not only just forgiving, but asking for forgiveness as well. Sometimes a person know that they've made bad choices or bad decisions, and sometimes you have to go back and ask for forgiveness for some of those choices and decisions that you've made concerning, your family. Exactly.
Because if you watched last week's broadcast, and I encourage everybody that didn't get an opportunity to see it, you heard me talk about that. There was a time, I want to say it was about 2008. I sat all my girls down individually. You know what I'm saying? We didn't meet together. We met individually. And I apologized for a lot of things that I knew I did that weren't right. Or I didn't have the wisdom on how to do what it is I wanted to do. And even though they had moved on, it was important to me to go back to them and say, hey, I blew it. I missed it. I did not know. I did not understand. I had no clue. Forgive me for those decisions and choices and things that I did that may have hurt you, that may have offended you, that you may even just didn't like. And so I tell you, when that happened, it changed the total dynamics of our relationship and just took us to a whole nother realm and dimension as it relates to our father-daughter relationship. And so, the next one is, you may have a difficult or hard time putting your marriage first. This is important because you have to make the marriage first. we're not saying that the family isn't important, but you have to make that marriage first, which means get to know each other. Get to know each other likes, get to know each other dislikes, get to know each other likes and dislikes as it relates to the children.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's very important, because you can get to know each other likes and dislikes, which we did, but we didn't take the time to really learn or get to want to know the likes and dislikes of the children.
Right.
And so if I would have really leaned into my wife and said, hey baby, what is it that they like? What is it that they want to know? Watch this. By getting to know that information, I'm making my marriage first, because now I'm making her feel like that her children are important to me just as much as she is. And so now that's making what? My marriage first. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, because putting your marriage first is an adjustment when it's been just that parent and the children. So that's something you got to kind of learn to do once you marry or remarry, especially when you've been so used to just you and your children, and your children have always been first, because most parents are going to put their children before they put themselves.
Correct.
Like my girls were first. I came second to them. So when you and I got together, I had to end up putting you first before them, which caused a lot of
friction.
Friction, problems, issues, because they didn't understand understand why I was putting you first, and then me trying to put you first and still keep them at a certain place with me, it brought about a lot of changes. So even with that, it's going to take some adjustment and some time to learn how to successfully do that.
And we talked about that on a previous broadcast as well, about allowing time for adjustments.
Yes.
Because this is important. You're not going to just get into this relationship and things just change overnight. And it's going to be
nice.
It'll be nice. It'll be lovely if that happens. You know what I'm saying? And it can happen if you get proper instruction.
Yes.
If you get the wisdom and you learn the things that you need to learn, you'll eliminate years of frustration and a lot of things that may come with not knowing, but that's not always going to be the case. Right. And so you have to allow that, like you said, sweetheart, you have to allow that time for adjustment. You know what I'm saying? Because again, this is an adjustment period. Because it was just me. And so I was used to leaving the toilet seat up, because I knew if I had to do something else, I put the toilet seat down. Well, guess what? I got in a household with all women, and everybody sit down on the toilet seat. And so that was an adjustment for me. Adjustment as far as using toothpaste. I squeeze from the middle, my wife rolls up from the bottom. You know what I'm saying? And so it's little things like that. It sounds kind of funny. It sounds kind of trivial.
But it's things that can cause
It's things
issues.
that can cause serious issues in the marriage relationship. So yes, you may have difficulty or hard time putting your marriage first, but make sure that you put the marriage first.
And that's why we stress really seeking out counsel before you bring together those families. That's why it's important, just like with marriage counseling. We're in a ministry where you go through, so many weeks or months of counseling, which I think is the greatest thing. So even with blended families, we should seek out that counseling, because you're bringing together two families or two systems to become one successful system.
Yes, because this was our counseling session. Brandon, do you love Madeline? I do. Madeline, do you love Brandon? I do.
That was it?
That was it. That was it. That was the total sum of our counseling. And so funny. It was sad. I mean, we both sat there really, but it was hilarious.
It was funny. It's funny when you think back now.
When you think back on it, it really was funny.
It was okay, yeah.
But it almost set us up for failure. It really did. It set us up for failure. But it was our strong desire to be success as it relates to our blended family, and, you know, as it relates even to ourselves. We wanted to be a success, and so we just did everything within our power to be successful. The next one is,
It's 8 o'clock.
you don't have to be jealous of the ex child or parent. Let me read that again. You don't have to be jealous of the ex child or children's parent. So that's when I say the ex. You don't have to be jealous of that individual, because understand, you're the one that got that person right now. And so that was one of the things that helped us along, was because at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, this is my wife and I love her, and she comes home to me every day. And so I had no need to be jealous, and same vice versa. She had no need to be jealous, because we are the ones that we have. And so we just embraced us as well as the parents of the children. And so it just made it easier. They made it simple. And we opened the doors to them, you know what I'm saying, to be a part of their lives as well. And so that kind of eliminated a lot of friction that a lot of people have going into it. But
with that, real quick, I know. But with that, I think that the spouse themselves, though, have to help that situation of not help that spouse not to be jealous of that ex, though, because
Exactly.
it could be things that spouse is allowing, you know, or doing that one spouse don't like, and that can cause jealousy. So it is still, I think, some of the spouse's responsibility to help them not
Correct.
to be jealous, like not have certain situations going on, certain things happening, or allowing them to happen, you know, in that situation.
Correct. And so, oh man, we're out of time, but we're not out of message. And so we love you guys. We thank you. Again, share. I'm pretty sure we'll pick back up next week on this, because again, we just scratched the surface as relates to things that you don't know going into the blended family. And so we're going to pick back up on this. We love you guys. We thank you for all your questions. We thank you for all your responses and your remarks. Keep tuning in every Tuesday at 7:30 to In the Blender with Madeline and Brandon Hyman. And I tell you, it's just going to be awesome. Again, you see the world behind us, because we're taking this message across the globe. And so we love you guys. We thank you for sharing again with your Facebook family as well, because there's somebody that have the same questions, that have the same concerns that you do. And remember, I always say, your question isn't just your question. Correct. And so understand that. Continue to reach out. Continue to tune in. We love you guys. Continue to share. Send your questions to weareablendedfamily@gmail.com. Again, we are a blended family at gmail.com. We love you guys. God bless you. And until next Tuesday,